Hey guys, Xlice here. We're reaching the later stages of 1.0 in Arknights Endfield, which means Yvonne is now officially the raid up banner. Some of you may have been lucky to grab her earlier on by losing your 50-50 on Lava's banner, myself included, but now that she's the raid up, it's time to explore what she does. If you're looking for more single target heavy, on-field crowd DPS, or someone who has a nice bakery, she's probably someone you want to pick up. In this video, I'll provide you exactly what you need to know, how to play, how to build, how to team, how to Yvonne. Just a reminder that I stream almost every night on Twitch covering multiple gachas. Check my community out when you got some spare time. Let's get into it. So, starting off with what she does in combat and how to play her. So her main purpose is patient setup and chip damage before going all in with her ult. She abuses final strikes from basic attacking and enhanced skill reset to synergize with other character skills to apply Crow Infliction. As you stack up Crow Infliction, her enhanced skill can consume it to deal massive damage, generate a large amount of energy, freeze enemies, grant a free final strike for herself, and connect to her QTE for even more damage and CC. Because her enhanced skill does so much, giving it proper setup is really important for her overall rotation. Now a brief reminder on what is a final strike. Final strike is usually the last attack in your basic attack chain that has extra benefits unique to each character. For example, Lava's final strike converts nearby heat infliction to her melting flame stacks, so you can use those big enhanced skills. For Yvonne, it's her main source of damage. She scales into basic attack damage really heavily, and her kit provides more sources of final strikes on top of the usual basic attack one. Her ultimate gives her super armor and enhances all of her basic attacks, including the final strike, and her enhanced skill provides an extra final strike on the next attack. Kinda like an auto reset if you understand that concept. To put simply, she is basically a left-click demon. Her abilities are mainly responsible for generating her ultimate energy, but also deal a really nice amount of condensed AoE damage that add up to help with AoE situations. First up, her skill. Ideally, you only want to use this in its enhanced version when it's highlighted, because it will force freeze enemies and give her an extra final strike. But if you want to pay more attention, you generally want to use this when enemies have 3 or more infliction stacks. You'll have to look at enemy HP tooltip bars to see how many stacks they have. The more stacks, the better, because they provide her significantly more ult energy and deal significantly more damage. Her QTE will be available when she uses a final strike on a frozen enemy. Use it to throw a "Hey Frosty Bitey"
Hey, Frosty Bitey!
on the field to deal consistent damage, provide a mini suction, freeze again after a brief delay, and generates 10 ult energy. Her QTE is pretty important utility to use right before her ultimate, which we'll now get into. So, ult is where all of the big damage comes from. This enhances her basic attack. Each attack grants 3% stacking crit rate buff, which also grants 60% crit damage at max stacks, which is 10 stacks. Her total in ultimate buff caps out at 30% crit rate and 60% crit damage. The last ult hit is a final strike that deals massive cryo damage and does extra damage if the enemy is frozen or solidified. Her ult costs 220 energy, which is a kind of specific amount. In a general rotation, I found that she typically can access one ult every 2 enhanced skills used, assuming one skill consumes 3 stacks and the other consumes 2 for 5 stacks total. The more infliction stacks, the better the energy return from her skill, but min-maxing the exact amount is a little bit difficult given different combat conditions. Overall, just know that 2-stack skill gives around 1/3 of her bar, and 3-stack skill gives around 1/2. Sometimes your rotation will need 3 skills to ult instead of 2, but ideally try to aim for 2 skills per to prevent excess energy waste. Regardless of what you do, always make sure to QTE with her into her ultimate to take advantage of the delayed freeze from the QTE. Her ult deals extra damage on frozen units, and she gets extra crit damage, so it's extremely valuable to combo these abilities together. And finally, it is important to note that her skill synergizes with both Cryo and Nature Infliction. Typical setup will be with Cryo Infliction from Xlice, Last Rite, or Snowshine, but Nature Infliction is also easy to set up with Gilberta and Fluorite. Now, based off of my experience playing her, Yvonne is a lot more prep and all-in focused, getting cryo or nature infliction stacks on the enemies without consuming them, then converting them into energy with Yvonne's skill, and then going all in with Yvonne's ult and using her QTE to freeze the enemy, and your whole team setup to maximize her ult's nuke damage. If you play a lot more autopilot and just spam skills on cooldown, Yvonne's kit will basically never get to shine because the prep is just not there. So, that's the gist of her gameplay. We're going to be stacking Cryo and Nature Infliction with ally abilities, using her skill to deal the nice damage in a small AoE. We're going to freeze enemies, generate energy for her ult, then use her ult and your team's damage amp to maximize her final strike nuke. Her extra talents are providing her an extra final strike after enhanced skill, and 20% crit damage against crowd-inflicted enemies, 40% against frozen. For talent priority, max out her ultimate and her basic first as they combine for her big nuke, which will be her highest contributing damage against beefy boss mobs. Then grab her skill as desired, and QTE is just for its delayed freeze utility. Level as needed. As an on-field, eventually max out everything, but prioritize ult and basic first. Alright, now let's take a look at her build. Attribute scalings are intellect and agility, and she's one of the rare operators who actually does scale with crit, but not in a bad way, don't worry. You won't need to RNG for the substats. Her gear set is extremely tailored. You're going to be running MI security with intellect agility everywhere. It provides 10% crit rate and 25% attack. No off pieces needed here. We have basic attack damage on body and gloves, and then we have crit rate on both of the kits. For artificing, focus the crit rate on both kits, basic damage on armor and gloves, and then intellect on all the pieces. For a weapon, her signature is ideal for the intellect and the crit rate. Otherwise, a standard weapon wedge is great for main attribute and crit rate, and BP navigator is great for intellect and crowd damage. You'll notice that even though a main attribute doesn't have the green thumbs up, it's still good. It gives the primary stat of any character, so it's going to be intellect for Yvonne. So basically this and this are the same thing. This is just 3 stat weaker. Refer on screen for exact weapon recommendations. Now a quick run through of potentials for any whales or lucky gamers out there. Most of you can skip to the next section for teams in combat. P1, her QTE is improved to have a larger AoE radius, 2 more instances of damage, and 15 extra ult energy. P2 is going to be 20 intellect and 7 crit rate. P3 is going to give increased crit damage from the passive from 20% to 30%. Against frozen enemies, it's increased from 40% to 60%. P4 is going to give plus 10 SP if the skill is used against just one enemy. And then P5 is going to be attack plus 10% and crit damage plus 30% during ult only. Overall, when you look at these potentials, you'll feel the most gain from P3 and P5. P1 and P4 are going to be the quality of life ones. Alright, so now who do we put on her team? So, Xlice is probably the best standalone duo to have. She is a 5-star, so there's a high chance that you have at least one. Her skill provides healing and Arts Amp by default, and connects directly into her QTE, which provides Cryo Infliction. Her ult provides more Cryo Amp for 12 seconds, which can be saved for when Yvonne ults. In single target situations, rely on Xlice as your Cryo Infliction applier, and slowly build stacks towards an all-in from Yvonne. For premium unit owners, Last Strike can be a dual DPS cryo amplifier instead, and another alternative F2P cryo amplifier will be Snowshine. For our third slot, add a Lesh strictly for passive SP generation. We will never actually use his battle skill, since it will consume the infliction stacks that Yvonne needs. We're just going to QTE with him whenever it's up for SP, and run max ultimate gain efficiency for ult uptime for more SP as well. Now, if you don't have a Lesh, that's okay. Any other Vanguard with similar SP generation, like for example Akakuri, who's using the Lava team, is completely fine. Last slot will be Flex. Now, Xlice already has our sustain covered, so we have multiple options. Gilberta is included for AoE control. If you have her, she actually works really well to cover for Yvonne's weakness with AoE. Her skill's Suction allows Yvonne's skill's small AoE to have good coverage here, cleaning up trash mobs in what otherwise would take an annoying amount of time. Run Ardelia for art susceptibility and extra healing if you need it. Otherwise, Fluorite is a great option to accelerate infliction stacks. No need to use her skill, just her QTE and ultimate is enough. It'll trigger when the enemy has 2 inflictions already, giving you a 3rd or even a 4th for free. Now, if you don't have any of these characters, don't worry. Just throw something together for now and have fun. As you play, you will eventually pull some of the 5s that I mentioned, and it'll be easier for you to make a proper team comp. Now, let's run through 2 combat showcases I've prepared for her. A single target fight against level 90 Rodan, and an AoE fight against Umbral Monument Agony mode. We're running a low investment but easy to execute team comp with Xlice, Alesh, and Fluorite. In all of these demonstrations, characters are at bare minimum investment, so you can see what damage is like without any RNG and upgrading. This means that there's no essence, and there's also no artificing on the gear. We initiate the fight with Xlice's skill and simply basic with Yvonne. After 2 final strikes, Xlice's skill completes and immediately allows her QTE to be activated for her first Cryo Infliction stack. Then we set up her skill again to generate another stack after 2 final strikes. This initial setup will be the slowest part of the team rotation if you have no ult energy to begin with. You'll notice that in this setup, Yvonne's final strike on basic attack is extremely important to connect. If you get hit, CC'd, or dash away for too long, it will reset her basic chain and delay those final strikes. Every 2 final strikes from Yvonne allows Xlice's skill to complete and activate QTE for Crow Infliction. On 2 Crow Infliction stacks, if you have it, full right QTE for a 3rd, and if available, you can full right ult right afterwards for a 4th. Now that we see that we have 4 stacks, we can use Yvonne's enhanced skill to consume those for good damage, a free final strike, and her own QTE. Then we can Xlice ult for 1 Crow stack and continue to Xlice's skill and basic attack with Yvonne. If you don't have Xlice ult, just do Xlice's skill setup twice like in the beginning of the rotation. Once you have 2 stacks again, you've prepped enough energy for Yvonne's ult. We're going to do Yvonne's enhanced skill, final strike, then QTE, and immediately full send her ult and Xlice's ult. With Yvonne's super armor, we can just stand still and hold left click. So after that, we're just going to fast forward a bit and we do the same thing. We're going to use Xlice's skill to apply Crow slowly, and when available, use full right QTE or Xlice ult to speed up those Crow infliction stacks. Every other Yvonne's enhanced skill should grant you enough energy to full send ults. You'll notice that during this fight, Yvonne's enhanced skill actually lights up quite frequently, but we want to exercise patience because we want to use it when we have more stacks. From there, we simply clear. Now for a quick AoE demonstration. In this setup, Gilberta is extremely valuable for her grouping, allowing Yvonne's skill to be used as a kind of condensed AoE bomb. We are less focused on getting the exact infliction stacks for a juicy ult, but more so just slowly connecting our abilities to constantly CC enemies and break their stagger bars for free finisher damage. In this agony trial, we can abuse Yvonne's range to pretty comfortably clear these mobs from afar, watching our SP bar and using Gilberta's skill and Yvonne's skill on rotation. Xlice's skill is less necessary unless you need some sustain, and Xlice is simply there for QTEs and ults for SP generation. Fast forwarding to the final 3 worms, here we just full send ults and play from a distance for easy kills.
For you. Logic yields the nut. Feel the chill.
So, what do you guys think of Yvonne? Personally, she plays very differently than Lava. She's a much more patient and setup-based character, focused around massive all-ins on her ult. Her final strikes on last basic chain are extremely important to connect, since they're the only way for Xlice's QTE to Crow Inflict. Xlice is obviously replaceable with other characters like Snowshine and Last Right, but your team will lack sustain that Xlice provided for more difficult content. In my opinion, Yvonne is definitely worth picking up if Lava's playstyle wasn't your fancy. She's an incredibly strong DPS, and paired with Gilberta, provides some really good AoE clear that she otherwise lacks. And of course, if you're just here to enjoy that bakery, then by all means. That's going to wrap it up for this comprehensive Yvonne guide and showcase. Let me know in the comments what you think of her. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more Enfield content, and thanks for watching. Take care.